By the time the fourth child was taken to the forest for burial, the village became very quiet. One by one, people were falling sick. First, the children, then the old people, then even the strong farmers. At night, you could hear crying from different houses. It felt like something was sitting on the village, something heavy and sad. The sickness came without warning. One small cough, then a fever. Then the person would stop talking and stop moving. The herbalists tried all the roots they knew. The women boiled bitter leaves and washed the sick ones. The elders poured palm wine on the ground and prayed at the junction. But nothing worked. So the chief sent messengers to 5 towns to find help. They brought back 3 powerful priests. One carried bones, another brought ashes, and the third one tied a white cloth over his eyes. Each of them tried what they knew. They burned herbs. They called on the spirits. They watched the sky. The last priest, the oldest, stood silently before the palace, placed his palm on the ground, and said, "Your land is angry. Your ancestors have turned their faces away. There was something your people once did. You abandoned it, and now they are punishing you." The chief sat heavily. "What did we abandon?" The old man closed his eyes. "The dance of the earth's breath. Your people once danced to keep the land in harmony with the spirit world. But for more than a generation, the dance has been forgotten, mocked, buried." An elder gasped. Another lowered his head. The chief's hands trembled. "No one remembers the steps," he muttered. "Someone does," the priest said. "She's still alive. The girl you cast out, the one you shamed, she carries the rhythm in her bones." Silence. Her name returned like thunder after drought. Nkoyo. How it all started. Nkoyo was just a young girl when she tried to speak up. She saw something wrong, a powerful elder taking land that was not his. She tried to stop it. But instead of listening, the people called her rude. They said she was trying to embarrass the elder. They called her a liar. They said she was not respectful. They took her to the palace, shouted at her, and made her leave the village with nothing. No one visited her. No one asked if she was okay. Now the children were sick. The drums were silent. The village was scared. The next morning, the palace was quiet. The chief sat on his special stool, thinking he did not eat anything. The village was losing its joy. The markets were empty. The drums were quiet. Even the birds no longer sang in the trees. Everyone was scared. People whispered about the sickness, and many stayed inside their homes. The old priest sat beside the chief and said, "You know what you must do." The chief looked at him. "It is hard. The people will not like it. But do you want to help your village, or do you want to hold on to your pride?" the priest asked. The chief stood up slowly. His hands were shaking a little. "Call the elders." By midday, all the elders sat in a circle. They were silent. No one touched the kola nuts on the tray. Then the chief spoke. "We hurt Nkoyo. We threw her out without listening. We called her names. But the spirits remember her, and we must find her." Some elders looked away. Some frowned. One spoke. "We were trying to protect our elder at the time. She spoke too boldly. And now," the chief said, "we need that same bold girl to save our village." Some elders frowned. Others lowered their heads. "We don't know where she is," one said. "She left long ago." "She didn't vanish," the chief replied. "She's still alive, somewhere. Go and look." So the chief sent 2 elders, one palace guard, and an old woman who once knew Nkoyo's mother. They carried palm wine, wrappers, and a bowl of food. It wasn't a big gift, but it was the first step. They walked all day, passing the old river, the hills, and the tall forest trees. When they reached the small hut where Nkoyo had last been seen, they were told by a farmer, "She left many moons ago. No one knows where she went." The search team returned with tired feet and empty hands. But when they got back to the village, they heard 4 people have just been buried while they were away. 2 children, 1 drummer, and the herbalist. The wailing was loud. Mothers screamed into the sky. The smell of pain and sadness hung in the air. The land felt broken. The chief's eyes filled with tears. "No more waiting," he said. "No more shame. If we want to leave, go. Find Nkoyo wherever she is. Let every warrior, every hunter, every neighbor look. Search the hills, search the rivers, search the forests. Go now." The village moved. Even those who once called her names now shouted her name with hope. "Nkoyo, Nkoyo!" Nkoyo now lived in another village, far from the one she had once called home. She kept to herself. Most people didn't know her story. She was just a quiet girl with careful hands who helped people at the river, shared firewood when she had extra, and sowed herbs she grew behind her hut. She never spoke about her past, and no one asked. One evening, she was walking home from the stream with a calabash of water on her head when she noticed 2 strangers speaking to the village chief. She paused under a tree and watched. One of the strangers pointed in her direction. The other whispered something. They looked tired, dusty, like they had walked very far. Nkoyo turned quickly and kept walking. Later that night, an older woman in the village, Mama Itoro, who often bought herbs from her, came to Nkoyo's hut and met her sitting outside her small hut. "My daughter," she said gently, "some people came today. They said they're from your old village. They're looking for you." Nkoyo froze. "Why?" The woman looked tired. They didn't say much, only that the sickness is bad, that the land is angry, and that the spirits told them, "Only you know the forgotten dance." Nkoyo stared at the fire in silence. "They left a wrapper and palm wine at the chief's house," Mama Itro added. "They said if you're willing to come, they'll be waiting at the edge of the big forest by morning." Nkoyo didn't say a word. Her hands gripped her wrapper. Her heart was loud. She thought of her mother. She thought of the day they threw her out, called her names, and told her never to come back. And now they were looking for her. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by the fire, her drum beside her. She didn't know if they truly wanted her back, but she knew now. They remembered. At sunrise, the villagers who had come in search of Nkoyo waited quietly at the edge of the forest. The older woman who once knew her mother leaned on a walking stick. The others stood behind her, 2 elders and a palace guard, unsure if she would come. No one spoke much. Even the birds seemed unsure. "What if she doesn't show?" the guard whispered. "She may not forgive us," one elder replied. "Then we will kneel," said the old woman. They had left the gift, the palm wine and wrapper, at the village chief's house the night before, just as custom required. If Nkoyo was willing to come, she would meet them here. That was the sign. Back in the small village where Nkoyo now lived, she was already awake. She had not slept. She wore a simple red and yellow wrapper and tied her old drum behind her back. Her face was calm, but inside, her heart felt like a heavy pot. When she reached the forest edge, the villagers saw her coming. She walked slowly, like someone who had nothing to prove. Her feet were bare. Her steps were steady. She stopped a few steps away from them. No one said a word at first. Then one of the elders slowly knelt on the ground. "We are sorry," he said. The village is not well. We didn't listen before. We need you now. Nkoyo looked at them. She looked at the trees. She thought of her mother, her old art, the shame, the silence. And then, in a calm voice, she said, I did not forget the dance. The old woman placed her hand over her chest and bowed her head. The others followed, quietly, one by one. Nkoyo turned toward the path back to the village. This time she wasn't walking away. She was walking home. It was a long walk. When Nkoyo walked back into the village, the people came out slowly, one by one. Children hid behind their mothers. The market women who once called her names stood in silence. The drummers dropped their sticks. Even the chief rose from his stool with shaking hands. Nkoyo, he said softly, thank you for coming back to us. Nkoyo nodded. Her face showed no anger, just calm. They led her to the village square, the place where festivals once happened. Now it was quiet. The trees had dropped their leaves. The ground was dry. The drums hadn't been played in weeks. Nkoyo bent down and touched the earth. Then she untied her mother's drum and placed it on the ground. Her fingers tapped it slowly. Her feet began to move. Her eyes closed. She danced, not for the people, not for the chief. She danced for the land, for the sky, for her mother, for all the ancestors who once danced in that very square. The drummers watched, then joined in. The beat grew, stronger, louder. The chief fell to his knees. The elders wept. Mothers covered their mouths as the wind passed through the village again. For the first time in a long time. When the dance ended, the air felt lighter. The people felt different. The sickness did not return. Nkoyo stood quietly. She looked at the chief. I forgive you, she said. The chief bowed deeply. We were wrong, he said. But if you will stay, I will give you land, a new home, and you will teach the dance to the young ones, so it is never forgotten again. Nkoyo looked up at the trees. Then she smiled, and this time the whole village smiled with her. Moral of the story: never throw away your roots. Honor your traditions and treat people with kindness. The one you reject today may be the one who saves you tomorrow. If Nkoyo's story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share. There are many quiet healers in this world, waiting to be heard, seen, and welcomed back home. The end.